If I was a bad guy with a knife coming at you from this distance, do you think you could pull that gun and utilize it? Who thinks you could? Come on, man, be bold. I'm kidding. Right now, what about now? I come running at you with the knife, can you get that gun out and shoot me? Okay, so there's something called the 21-foot rule. And it was designed because a lot of cops were getting killed with knives. And you think about it, knives are everywhere. They're all over the world. And if I put this knife in the right place, you are done. You are going to die, right? So cops, what they were doing, people were attacking them with deadly weapons like knives, and they're reaching for the gun. And you got to unbuckle that gun, even if it's exposed and on a hip. You got to unbuckle that gun. You usually have a retention button. You got to pull that thing, and at the time somebody comes running at you and plunges that thing into you, they just weren't getting to the gun on time. And even if you pull your gun now and shoot me, and I plunge this in, we both die. Okay? Because people had an unrealistic expectation of how much distance an attacker can cover in the time it takes you to reach for your gun. Now, in this scenario, your gun is, it's covered, but it's in appendix, which is really easy to get to. You know what's going to happen. You're kind of primed and ready for it. Gun's locked and loaded. Bear in mind, if your gun did not have a round chamber, that's going to add time to chamber a round. If you're female and your gun's in a handbag, if it's in a backpack, if it's on a hip holster that needs a button to be released, if it's under a jacket, it all adds time. So having an appendix holster under a t-shirt is about as good as it gets, almost, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna see how far an assailant how much distance he can cover in the time it takes you to draw that gun and shoot it. Will is my attacker, but he's gonna run that way, okay? As soon as you see him move, I want you to clear fabric, pull that gun, and do a center mass shot. On that. When he hears the shot, he will stop. And then we'll holster the gun, we'll look around, and we'll see how much distance he covered in the time it took you to draw and fire. That make sense? Okay, there's no go, because you would normally be reacting to him moving. So you're just gonna wait until he starts running, clear fabric, bang, good center mass shot, and then stop and we'll holster, okay? Okay, finger off the trigger, holster, right there. That's how much, that's typical. You were still fast, but that's typical of how long it takes to draw. You think it's bang, it's super fast, right? And it is, but he can close that distance very, very quickly, okay? This time I want you to put that bullet right here. It's gonna force you to see your sights, all right? Okay, finger off the trigger, holster, right there. It went a little high, headshot, but you had to go to your sights, which cost you time. You don't need to. Honestly, in the old West, they were like 3 feet apart, they were shooting like this and they were drunk. And they still hit each other somehow, right? At this range, it's point shooting, right? It's not that you're not aiming, you are. You're point shooting, you're aiming center mass, and you're using this thumb as a reference point, and you're pumping rounds into the chest to try and stop him. You don't have time to, oh, front side, front side, front side, front side. You'll wake up in heaven, and you'll be like, what happened? Yeah, right? So a lot of people are not comfortable chambering around, and that's fine. I'd rather you carry a gun with no round chambered than not carry it all. But just bear in mind, when you draw that gun, you're going to have to rack the slide, and it's going to cost you time. If you're holding a child, if you're grabbing something, and you pull that gun, you're going to have to rack it off your clothing or some way, right? So this time when he runs, you're going to have to draw the gun, rack the slide, and shoot, which will cost you time, okay? There you go. All right, so that costs you time. So if you have a loved one who is not comfortable carrying a gun with a round chambered, then they need to understand, and it's not a case of, well, sometimes I chamber a round and sometimes you do one or the other. Because when you draw it, you'll go, oh shit, I forgot. This time I didn't chamber a round, right? Now there's considerations for kids and having a gun in the car with kids clambering around. And when I had little kids and they were in my car, I didn't chamber a round, right? Now I do. Guns don't go off by themselves. If they're in a protected holster, they're going to be fine. But you need to train, okay? Good? All right. Now, so how do we mitigate that? If I'm coming at you with a knife, how do you mitigate that? Okay, so number one, I don't go to the gun too early, right? If he comes at me, I push him away, deflect him, and pull my gun that way. Or he comes at me, I fight him. I fight him, and I create space, and I earn the right to go to the gun. Okay, now, movement is great. However, if I move backwards, what am I risking? Tripping and falling, but I'm also not breaking his momentum. If he's a big guy and he's coming running at me, if I move back, his momentum is still plowing on me. If I move laterally, I force him to change his momentum, and it's crazy how much distance you can cover in just a couple of steps. So lateral movement is the best movement, if possible. Now you may be in a hallway, cars, whatever, but if I can move laterally, it's going to be better. So if he's coming this way at me and I'm right-handed, I'm going to pull my gun. I'm just going to turn my hips. I'm going to walk a couple of steps that way, and I'm just going to shoot him. You can keep your gun upright if you want, or you can turn it because it's gangster and it's kind of cool. But I have less muscle strain if I turn the gun, and he's so close, you're just going to be able to pump rounds into him, right? But people they overthink it. When we talked about overthinking, they go freaking river dance, right? All you got to do is turn those hips, pull that. I'm going to let you keep it exposed for this drill. Pull that gun, whack, 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 as he gets closer to you, right? You can also move the other way. If there are cars here or something, it just makes it that it's a little harder to strain across your body, but it's absolutely an option. A lot of times you'll end up doing both. You'll end up moving backwards and sidewards just to gain that space. But having been the guy running, when somebody moves laterally, isn't it, Will? It's really hard to change direction, and that's where you gain enough time to make a decision. It's going to come at me. Just a couple of steps. Come closer. Even closer. Okay, now. Just a couple of steps. Now, if I'd have stayed put, come at me when I stay put. Okay, I'm still going to get hit, right? But just a couple of steps, and the closer he gets, the easier it is to hit him. It's real short. There you go. You keep shooting until he's down. All right? Simple, right?
Yes.
Next. There you go. Perfect. So what do we do if he's so close that you can't get it? You fight. You fight first. You earn the right to go to that gun. What you don't do is take one hand out of the fight prematurely. Yeah. That make sense? Okay. Boom. Perfect. Perfect. There you go. There you go. Okay. Everybody good with that? All right.